presentation. I'm just the warm-up act for my colleague Danielle Ellis from nursing. Those of you who know me will know that I'm really interested in the use of storytelling as a pedagogic tool, and it's what I did my doctoral research on. For myself, I looked at the use of pedagogic storytelling in the language classroom, but since then my interests have grown, and it's my belief that you can use storytelling in any subject actually. So this first presentation will be looking at developing the art of storytelling as a pedagogic assessment tool in nursing. And I've shamelessly stolen a little quote there from my new colleague, Kendall Jarrett, who's joining us in the international area of the university. And what he says is, the significance of storytelling to the development of human knowledge and understanding should never be underestimated. And I absolutely agree with that. The next one's from somebody called Sarah Telfer, who says that storytelling can act as a stimulus for teachers and students' creativity and imagination. And the most effective story tasks draw on what Mollett L called funds of knowledge from learners themselves, enabling them to bring existing knowledge and skills and creativity into the classroom, taking what we call a social practice approach to learning. That's from Irene Schwab. So I've looked at stories. My particular area of interest was the use of anecdotal stories as a pedagogic tool. I think they're useful for icebreakers, reflections. I'm very interested in the use of picture stories, visual literacy, digital literacy, oral literacy, graphic literacy. I'm interested in it all. So I happened to meet Danielle at our TIRI conference, and we found that we had an interest in common with the use of storyboards, which was something I thought, oh yes, this is definitely up my street. So I'll introduce Danielle because she's going to take over from me. Danielle's a senior lecturer in adult nursing based in the Faculty of Health and Wellbeing at the University of Bolton. And you can see what she's passionate about there on the screen. So what we're hoping to research is the development and innovative use of storyboard assessment as a pedagogic tool, enabling creative methods of assessment. Because one of my roles, I'm interested in looking at alternative methods of assessment across the university, rather than traditional essay writing, if you like, especially in vocational areas. And storyboards was something that interested me straight away. So I'm going to hand over to Danielle now. And Danielle, you can tell me when you would like me to nudge the slides on, and I shall do so. So Danielle, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. So as Sarah said, storyboards are something that we are trying to push as an assessment method within the university. And I noticed one of my colleagues, Chloe Rich, is in the audience. So it's Chloe is the pathway lead for the operating department practitioners, and she's had the first group who've done the storyboard assessment, which has been such a positive outcome. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So inclusive assessment, providing a level playing field. So simply by their design, storyboards meet the requirements of the Equality Act 2010, because what they do is they enable the student to choose their own individual method of presentation that suits their individual learning needs. And this also enables them to develop autonomy. They have an intrinsic motivation with the topic and the assessment, and a sense of personal achievement. So I do believe it is best practice pedagogy. Please, could you move the slide on, Sarah? So what is a storyboard assessment? Primarily, storyboard assessments are student-centred. They are a reflected response to the learning outcomes of that particular module. And what happens is the student has to disseminate the available resources and evidence base that they're looking at to reassemble them into their individual assignment presentation. So whatever they've chosen to do, they have to represent. So this develops a self-reflection on the topic matter as well. And in particular in health, it's fantastic because it also develops, it constructs a sense of empathy towards the patient. For example, if the story was about a case study. So with the ODPs, with Chloe's group, that was a case study following a patient from pre-operative to post-operative and discharge stage. And what we found was that not only are you picking up on their interactions with the patient, but also the observations that the student has had of the healthcare setting and their observations of the healthcare setting and the patient together. And then they've got to put all this against a backdrop of evidence-based practice. So that encourages a growth of reflective and critical analysis skills, which is central for them to becoming a good healthcare practitioner. So they've got problem solving, creativity and critical thinking. Next slide, please, Sarah. So what formats can a storyboard take? I don't like to be prescriptive on this really, because I think that it's very much down to an individual basis. It's down to what that student feels that where their strengths lie, but also what resources they have available. But, you know, just giving them some idea, I say, you know, it could be audio, so they could do a voice recording, a podcast, something like that. It could be visual, it could take 2-dimensional or a 3-dimensional form. They could use a cartoon format such as Movely or Powtoon. They could even develop a PowerPoint, maybe enrich that PowerPoint with a voiceover as well. There's pictographs, it could be a blog, or it could be a Prezi. I think the key points for that student is that there needs to be a sense of permanency to it. So whether that's a recording of their performance or whether they've actually got an object that they can photograph or submit, whatever works for them. And that's just so that we can follow the correct quality procedures and have the internal and external moderation of that submission. So with Chloe's group, with the ODPs, they were all given all of these possible presentation options, but only one chose to do a digital format. The others created objects and submitted those in by hand. It could be that we need to encourage more digital formats by teaching the students how to use different programs, etc. But that's something that myself and Sarah can investigate further with the students. So a top tip, and this came from Heather Darwin, was to have the students photograph their work from all angles if it's a 3-dimensional object, and upload the photographs to Turnitin, and also upload their end-text reference list. And what this does is it gives the assessor a platform to give in-text commentary and feedback and feed-forward advice on each individual part of the storyboard within Turnitin. And also then they've got their end-text summary as well. Next slide, please, Sarah. So to aid the students with this storyboard submission, because, you know, as we've mentioned, it is a very new thing, we've created a Leap Online platform for them to enter, you know, whenever they need to. So for those of you who are not familiar with the University of Bolton, Leap Online is our Learning Excellence Achievement Pathway online tutorial service for the students and for staff as well. So it has various elements to it, from how to develop critical analysis, to presentations, to well-being, mindfulness, etc. So within this platform, we've embedded the presentation on storyboards, and they've also got an activity and an assessment that they can do, as well as watch the presentation or just read the handout for that. So we introduce this to the students before they embark on their journey, but then they've got this tool, this platform to keep going back to if they want to, you know, get some more reassurance of how to take the direction. It reiterates the need to have the same structure as a written assessment, as in we want that introduction, main body, conclusion and reference list and in-text references. And also that the learning outcomes have to be met and quality-based resources have to be used. Is it possible to show a little bit of that, Sarah?
I will. This is my most nerve-wracking bit, so we'll have a little drum roll here to make sure. Let me just see. I will do. Let's have a look and see if I can. Oh goodness me! I'm hoping that I can find it on here. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully you should. Can you see that? Can you hear it? No. Just 1 second. I will just give me 1 minute and I shall find it on here. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Here it is. Okay. You should be able to see that now on your screens. Okay. And I'm going to press play. Going to pause that for a minute. Can you all hear that? Can someone let me know? Can you hear that? Julia? Oh, yes, you can. Okay, that was working. That was good. I just wanted to check. Okay, I shall do it again. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to stop playing that now because I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. So I'm hoping, whoops, that you can all hear me. Let me just turn that off. Okay. it's off now. There we go. Hopefully it's gone now. Okay, so let's go back to my Zoom. Here we go. Right, so I'm going to share the screen again, just for the last bit of Danielle's presentation. Here we go. So, last one. Danielle, are you there?
I am, yes, thank you. So that was a good example of a Powtoon as well, for those who want to know. A Powtoon, the Leap Online, it's a Powtoon.
Yes. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, they're quite easy to produce, and obviously you can get tutorials on YouTube as well to help with that. Really, in summary, the storyboards are much more than testing knowledge. So we've got some feedback here from previous students and from the external examiner who assessed this recent submission for the ODP group. So the external examiner said, "I was extremely pleased to see such innovative and informative storyboard posters. There is a clear distinction between the higher marks where the hard work is evident, excellent in-text commentary enabling students to feed forward." So really the in-text commentary goes back to the top tip from Heather Darwin, where we upload the photographs of the storyboards to turn it in, and we're able to comment on the individual parts of it. But also I have to say that I awarded two highest marks of 92% for this group. And this is a group that don't necessarily achieve such high marks, but the quality of the submissions was just far higher than with the written assignments. They were a pleasure to mark as well, much more pleasurable than reading essays, I have to say. So we've got student feedback as well. One, "I'm so happy with my mark and the feedback I got." Another one, "In typical assignments, I just wrote to meet the word count. You don't have that issue here. You can write as much or as little as you want, as long as it tells the story you want it to tell." And then we've got another one, "I still remember the majority of what I wrote and researched, so well worth doing." And isn't that what we want as educators? We want our students to be learning, not just writing and submitting to progress within the course. We want them to retain that learning. And then the last one is, "I love doing it. It was a nice change from the usual essay." I wouldn't say it was any easier, as I think we've put a lot of hard work in, and I think that's really important that the students know that it is a time-consuming assignment and that they can't just do it the night before submission. So as Sarah mentioned at the start, we are currently researching the storyboards. So we're collating data using a digital questionnaire format that's embedded on the Moodle platform, which is the learning platform we use at the university. And we'll also be inviting students to a focus group so that they can discuss thoughts, feelings and experiences of producing and submitting these storyboard assignments. So this will enable us to collate and share future findings, and hopefully we're going to positively challenge the concept of assessment processes, because after all, assessment is at the centre of pedagogical practice, and it's there to develop the students' learning journey, and the results that they get from the assessment create life-changing decisions from their future. So let's make our assessment process fully equitable and enjoyable for the students.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute, and I'm just going to give you a minute. I believe my glamorous assistant, Dan Edmondson, who's our PhD student, has been monitoring questions in the chat. So I thought we'd just pause, and I've noted there's 207 people online, which is wonderful, but it means that it's quite difficult for people to unmute microphones and ask questions. So again, this is a new creative process for me. And what Dan's idea was, and I think it's a good one, if you put some questions in the chat, he's already picked up on some of them, and what Dan will do, he will read them out to ask myself and Danielle. So I'm just going to give you, if there's any 1 minute for you to put any burning questions that you have in the chat, and Danielle, if we don't manage to answer all of them, then we can perhaps copy and cut and paste, and we'll come back and perhaps email people with our thoughts. Okay, while people are popping some questions in, Dan, is there any one question that you would like us to start off with?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions already come through.
Yeah.
This one is, with end text summaries, is there an issue with the need for students to overwrite in order to explain their storyboards?
Danielle?
I'm not quite sure what you mean with the end text summary. With the Turnitin, we'll give it a summary within the comments box, but also we'll give in text comments as well. Is there any clarification on that?
Yes, that was my question. Sorry, Claire Higgins.
Thank you.
I heard you sort of say that the students needed to write at the end some text about their references and a summary. And my question was, is there, so they kind of fall back on the written word, and would they then write too much again and write more to explain their storyboards rather than let the storyboard just speak for itself?
Yeah, sorry, I think that's a misunderstanding. We haven't asked for any summary of the work. The storyboard speaks for itself, so there's been no kind of a submission that they've done that's a summary. The only submission that we want is the photographs of the work and the reference list, and that's so that we can again assess the quality of the resources that they've been using and making sure that they've got that evidence base behind the research.
Okay, Dan, another question?
Yes, the next question is, how would you see such storyboards being used in subjects which find themselves to be abstract or very difficult to visualise, such as mathematics?
Gosh.
I mean, and we've got some mathematics practitioners with us. I mean, you can use visuals in mathematics, can't you, to see how you go through particular steps. Have we got any mathematical practitioners with us who'd like to have a stab at that, how you'd use maths in a storyboard? While someone's thinking about it, I would actually use it to show a sequence of something. I don't know, you could even use it. Things like chess maps are very visual, aren't they? And they're mathematical. I've used storyboards for telling the time, actually, to use a picture to do with telling the time with various time clocks. I'll have a think about that. So I have actually done a session on storyboards and maths. I think it was to do with figures of numbers, to do with sequences really when it comes to a storyboard. Perhaps to do with shapes, I think, and colours. Yeah, okay, I'll definitely, by the end I will have an idea. Another question, Dan, a last one, I think.
I think we can compile a few into one. They're all within the same subject. Yeah. As part of this is there a way to integrate this into formative assessment? And also, how do you ensure parity without a word count or time in terms of standardization? And did you have to create a marking criteria at all?
Danielle, did you create a marking criteria for yours?
Yeah, so we just used the same marking criteria that we use for written assessments. So we use the rubric, the level 5 one for these particular submissions. Parity and word count, that there was, I suppose you've got to be aware that some people can put absolutely, far too much in, and that is something that you need to feed back on. They did have a guidance in the module guide that it was supposed to be equivalent to a 3,000 word essay, so that gave them an idea of where they should be. And obviously we had the opposite, where people were not putting as much in as what they should do for a 3,000 word essay, and it was reflected in the marks. And as for using it for a formative submission, I think it should definitely be encouraged, but my thought is that if we use it for summative, then they're getting that mark, and especially for level 5 and level 6, that mark counts towards the degree classification. So it's that opportunity for those learners who really struggle with the written word to bump up their overall mark and just show their abilities and exactly what they're capable of.
Okay, last question, Dan.
I think we've got really a follow-on from that. That same question is how would you manage moderation in those circumstances? Probably around the standardisation as well.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue with this particular group, but I can understand that some members of staff might feel inexperienced with marking it, and they might feel nervous about it. So I did the marking for this, and Chloe did the moderation, and we didn't find it a problem at all. But again, it's about using the rubric and kind of our standard approach to marking. You know, is it evidence-based? Have they used good quality references? You know, what's the presentation like? You know, basically the same things that we would use with a written essay.